4 topics on this edition of the Cowboys Report. We'll talk about Micah Parsons since so many other fan bases want to talk about him. The latest on Tyler Guyton, if the Cowboys could trade for this specific back, and Troy Aikman. Boy, he ripped the Cowboys wide receivers. We'll break that down. Before we get into today's show, we're about to reach 200,000 subscribers. We have passed the 199K mark. Thank you all so much for getting there. Now it's 990 that we need to get to the 200,000 mark. Appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. And if you haven't already, hit that sub button right now. Let's talk Micah Parsons. The Cowboys are struggling. The 3-3 mark is not indicative of how poorly they've played, frankly. And Micah Parsons is due for a massive contract. And that has kind of kickstarted some trade rumors. And I get it. I do think you have to make a decision. And it doesn't have to be before the trade deadline. This can be done in February or before free agency. But if I ran the Cowboys, and trust me, I wish I did, I would make my Micah decision before free agency. And I would either pay him before free agency to free up my salary cap space, or I would trade him and get assets back and also free up my salary cap space. No matter what you decide, it should be big, right? It's either going to be a big contract or a big trade haul because he's worth it. Both sides of that same conversation. He hasn't done much this year. The injury, of course, not helping things very much either. You don't find the level of production in his first 3 seasons outside of Hall of Fame pass rushers. Those guys don't really exist. So regardless of how you feel about maybe the podcast stuff, the contract cost isn't going to go down. Whoever ends up paying Micah Parsons is going to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. That is what it is going to take. Justin Jefferson makes $35 million per year. Micah's going to beat that. It's a question of how much. Nick Bosa got $122.5 million guaranteed. I'd bet Micah Parsons beats that. It's a matter of how much. So if you are truly committed to paying him and subscribing to the I don't want to trade away my best defensive player, I don't want to trade away my best players, okay, that's fine. Then skip the August holdout and then cave to what he asked for initially, crap that I fear this team is going to do. Don't drag your feet on that. But if you subscribe to the, hey, he's a great player, but you know what? I want the draft assets. I want to pay other players instead and not pay so much to one big guy on defense. I want to get the haul back in exchange. Okay, that is a valid argument. Now, I think you can maximize your return in the offseason. I do think you are able to do that. I think you are able to get more impact by waiting and figuring out what exactly that trade's going to be and not trading like the Lions and then get pick 32 or something. Now, here's the Jalen Ramsey trade details. I think you got 2 examples here. A first, and a fourth in exchange for Ramsey initially. The Khalil Mack trade was the Bears got Mack, a second and a fifth. The Raiders got 2 firsts, a third, and a sixth. So you're kind of in that 2 firsts and change range. That's what I think it should end up costing. If you're going to do it right, that's what you should be able to get back in exchange. So what would you do with Micah Parsons? T for trade, P for pay. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's talk Tyler Guyton. Now, the Cowboys have said they expect Guyton to return to left tackle once he's healthy, likely next week. A couple different coaches, ownership had said, hey, he wasn't quite 100%. Now, he practiced all week long. He didn't miss any time. He was a full participant. So the theory of, hey, that could be just a convenient excuse to not play him for a game, I think is possible. I think had that been the case, he also probably would have played once the backups went in. I think that was, maybe he wasn't just 100%, and at that point, there wasn't worth it getting re-injured. But you can read this quote from Mike McCarthy and interpret, hey, maybe he's not practicing quite the way they want him to. Here's what Mike said. Like I told Tyler last week, you have to practice every day. You're not going to get where you want to be because it's about those 5 linemen getting out there every single day and getting those reps. When that doesn't happen, it can be bumpy, and that's what we're going through right now. So should Tyler Guyton start at left tackle? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Now, McCarthy tends to believe in two things. Number one is playing your best 5 offensive linemen. He'll make an exception if, say, your Hall of Fame right guard doesn't want to play right tackle, and he'll make up some excuse about fantasy football and shield his player, but that's typically what he believes in. He also believes that continuity matters a lot. Chemistry, time on task, reps together, etc. All of those things lead to better offensive line play. That's why when you're constantly shuffling guys around, the O-line looks disjointed. It is a unit. It is one organism to an extent. And I also agree with those things. I think playing Guyton satisfies both of those things. I think he is one of your best 5 offensive linemen. And I think he definitely helps the continuity side of it. Plus, if I'm being honest, I have to consider 2025, and shuffling around Tyler Smith again probably doesn't benefit anybody involved in that conversation. That's not to say Guyton has been some perfect, great, elite player. No, he still has some technique issues. He's also gone through a bit of a murderer's row along the offensive line or against pass rushers so far this year. It'll get a little bit easier because, you don't get Garrett and TJ Watt and all that. So I guess he didn't get TJ Watt, but I digress. Should have a little bit more relaxed time against some of the guys you're going to play down the stretch here. I think he needs those reps. You made your decision in the training camp. Hey, we're going to play the younger, raw guy. You knew what you were getting into. You have to see that through. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. It is curation designed to save you even more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. If you don't want to go to a Cowboys game, I get it. But there's NBA games coming down the pipeline here. There's college football games in the general greater Dallas, DFW area. They've got something for you no matter what. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, that's CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Go back to trades. ESPN's Bill Barnwell suggested the Cowboys make a trade for Bears running back Khalil Herbert. Here we go again with the Herbert trade idea. I don't hate it because I think there is some good stuff to get out of him. The trade idea from ESPN was a 6th-round pick. Goes to Chicago. Dallas gets frankly, the 3rd string back for the Chicago Bears right now. We'll talk about some of the reasons why maybe you don't have as much confidence as you did previously. Of note, you have no 7th-round pick, so one of them conditional 6th is the best that you can end up doing. So would you make that trade? Or I guess the worst you can end up doing outside of a pick swap is better terminology. Would you make that trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Look, Herbert hasn't played hardly at all this year. He's been the number 3 back. He looked good in the preseason. Hasn't done anything so far this year. He hasn't had a touch the last 3 weeks. But when he has played previously, he has offered some explosive runs. There was a great point that was mentioned by Barnwell that he had more runs of 13-plus yards last year than all the Cowboys backs have had combined in a year and a half. It's just been ugly. He's better than Zeke right now. I know Herbert ain't doing anything, but I've seen Zeke get a lot of snaps. Doesn't intrigue me so far. Now, maybe you would waive Deuce Vaughn to make room because this team doesn't want to cut Zeke. Who knows? My biggest issue, Herbert is a rental. I don't know if a rental is what you need right now. Let's go to Troy Aikman and his comments. In his interview with DFW The Ticket, man, Aikman did not hold back. He lit in to this Cowboys wide receiving core. Here's what Troy Aikman said. The routes are terrible. I think the routes are terrible. I think they run terrible routes, and I've thought that beyond this year. I think CD has got to improve his route running. As a quarterback, If you're not certain where guys are going to be consistently, it's hard to play the position. That's what I see. I see guys lazy coming off the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they run. Usually if they do, it's because they're going to get the ball on that play. But if they're not, they don't. And it all ties together. I'm not impressed with that part of it. I just finished watching the Baltimore Ravens to have them this week. You put on film of theirs and watch their receivers run routes, and they come off the football. So does San Francisco and Green Bay's and others. It's hard to play the quarterback spot if you're not certain how guys are going to run routes or where they're going to be. And I'm not speaking for Dak. Dak may say, I think their routes are amazing. But as a former quarterback watching it, it's got to get a lot better. So give me your one-word reaction to Troy Aikman just ripping into those Cowboys wide receivers. Let me know in the comments of today's show. My one word is damn. That is Troy, go back and listen to the interview. They didn't ask him what he thought of the receivers' routes. They kind of asked him general offense receiving connection issues, and he went right to the route stuff. He did not hold back there. Now, I will say, I think there's a lot of stuff he pointed out that is correct. Also, how is your coaching not fixed that by now? Shouldn't that be a big thing? And you can even listen to if you've ever watched the Kurt Warner, JT O'Sullivan stuff. They kind of have mentioned similar things. They don't like the route concepts either. This is very much a timing base where the footwork and the eyes have to be married to the receiver's routes. And if that's off, it can get very, very ugly. And I think you've seen some of that this year. I think it's an all compounding snowball thing, right? Receivers aren't doing their routes properly. The scheme isn't very good. The quarterback can miss a little bit high. I think especially against the Lions, he missed high far too frequently. The schematic's not good. The timing's not good. It all snowballs out of control, and it just compounds upon each other, and this is what you have. The vibes are bad right now. For a 3-3 team, I don't know if I can recall a worse vibes around a team that's 500 at the bye week.